All right, give me a rap. Go.
That's not rap.
That's like beatboxing. All right, cut it. Cut the music.
Parcheesi.
Parcheesi. Lemon squeezy.
Ain't that the truth?
All right, we're back. Daily recap 11. Really, it's day, I want to say 16 or a week off. This is the fourth week.
It's time's flying.
Whew. Fun stuff. All right, well, let's do the recap, and then maybe we'll do some coding, or we'll do some thinking, or we'll do some, I don't know, planning, whatever.
For shizzle.
Recap. Go. What'd you learn today? What did you learn today?
Today was a struggle. For realsies.
Couldn't concentrate, or was it hard?
No, it was just because I was trying to do like a project thing, but like everything was just outdated, I guess you could say. So it was like wrong. I just couldn't get it right. Yeah. And then I looked at, I was just chilling. I was vibing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you think you can get back on track tomorrow, or do we need to change something? Do you need help with something?
Oh, I'm vibing. Tomorrow's gonna be different.
Okay.
Because I'm on something new.
Okay. It's good to hear. It's good to hear.
Yes.
Were you able to read today?
No, because I was so frustrated with the.
Okay. Well, you got a third book coming, so if you're not getting anything out of the first book, we can cut it. Your mic is cut. Plug that back in. I wonder how long you've been disconnected.
No, it just happened.
Okay.
Oh, yep, we're
We're
back.
back.
We're chilling. Okay.
You think you'd be an expert at this point? No, these
Yeah.
are fairly new mics. All right, so I want to hear a bit about your troubleshooting. So you had a task to troubleshoot pseudoparadox. First thing, you had to download it. So I set up GitHub for you on your laptop. Do you remember what I said about how storing a Unity project in a GitHub repo is a little different than just storing plain old code?
Yes.
Why is that? What is different about it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's
You
more
weren't
advanced.
listening. You weren't listening.
I was listening, but I totally forgot.
Didn't take notes.
Oh yeah, I don't take the notes are my partner.
Well, think about it. If you just had like, I don't know, a text-based game instead of a Unity game, you could store all the code as text and check that in, and it'd be. Remember how you said, "Oh, it's super fast."
Yeah.
Download really fast, right?
Oh yeah.
Because it was just the text, but your game also has assets, images. So those are stored in GitLFS, which is, you remember what that stands for?
The file thing, large file system,
Yeah,
or something like that.
Exactly. So that I don't know exactly how it works under the hood, but that basically makes it so your commits are really small and in the code repo, and then it somehow links to the resource repository, what LFS or whatever. Okay. Anyway, so that's a little bit about code repos that we dropped on you today. I still want you to touch the terminal at some point. So you log stuff to the terminal, like at least the Unity terminal.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're on a Windows machine, you'll write a certain kind of script. When you're on a like a cloud system, like that's Unix based, or a Mac, which is Unix based, you'll write a totally different type of script. And so I'm gonna find something where you can mess around with that, because it's used everywhere these days. You won't touch it as much in game development, I guess, but I want you to at least be exposed to it before the end of this. So put that on our to-do list.
Very.
What else is on our to-do list before the end of this dojo?
Fix the game.
Fix the game. Add features. What's the
Yeah.
next feature we should add? What's fun?
I think we should add another room, just like a bathroom or like a closet or something.
So, like, do you think we should section off the current room, or you think we should just open a door and actually walk down a hallway?
Honestly, we could section it. It's pretty big.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, you can work on your design chops. You can do that in your free time. Like, you can do that without me, right?
For
Do
sure.
that Okay. Why don't you take that as a side task of sprucing up the room a bit, throw some assets or something there. But keep in mind, we want to make puzzles out of that room somehow, using the portal that we created and the AI guys. You know, a big feature we're missing. Like, we don't have good movement yet.
Mm-mm.
So that's probably something we should do on the next live stream. Maybe is get the what is it called? Character controller.
Player character control.
Yeah, you remember how we looked the other day on the stream? We looked at there's two ways to do player movements. What are the two ways?
Rigid body in the
Right, the physics-based rigid body one, and then the other one's the player controller, where you kind of do your own gravity and stuff, and that's the one we're going with. So we need to do that for the AI controller. We need to have some logic there that knows how to move. Do you remember how we did it right now? It's very naive, very stupid the way we did it. But I mean, like, it works for now.
Yeah.
But you know how it works. Do you remember? How does the AI know to move around? Like
the storage, like we saw
Yeah.
our position.
Right, and it stores like what, once a second, the position.
Yeah, I was playing with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we could store, smaller increments, like once a millisecond, 10 or once every 100 milliseconds or something like that. But I think there's an even better way, which is like in animation you'd call it tweening, where you have 2 points and you want to go from one to the other. You don't just jump there. You tween it, which will fill in little smaller movements to get there. So it will kind of just calculate what's the best way to get there. Oh, a straight line. Or if there's an object in your way, like for character movement, you may have to have some kind of logic that knows how to navigate objects or whatever, right?
Mm.
But for an empty room, we probably could just say move. So you could do some calculation. Says I'm facing this way. The point I need to go is over here. Find the direction I need to walk in and the distance to get there, and then take one step in that direction. So the next frame might look like this, and the next frame might look like this, and the next frame might... You don't need to do all that. There's probably some kind of movement logic already somewhere in Unity that we could use that will do that, right?
For shizzle.
So take a look at, or like keep an eye open for that when you're doing your tutorials. Like, how do they move things? Right now they probably just give them a direction and a velocity and say move over there, right?
Yeah.
But wait until you get to a more complex game where you actually have multiple points that you want the person to go to. So as soon as you hit a tutorial like that, let's use that as a reference. Keep an eye out for that. Otherwise we'll look it up ourselves.
I think
figure it out.
I have a UI in 2 units. I've seen it.
UI's coming up?
2 units away.
One
now.
What are the next ones? What's the next one then?
Ooh, I think the next one is the game interface.
How's that different than the UI?
I don't know. That's just the title. That's what I saw.
Oh, interesting. Maybe it's an intro to UI. Okay. Well, they use the term UI and they use the term UX. Do you know the difference between them?
I don't. I just know UI.
So UI is user experience, user
Interface.
give it away. User interface. UX is user experience. So UI is the things you think it is. It's the clock that we have in our game. It's the on-screen text, menus. Well, kind of. It's the thing that's presented to the user, like the color of the text and stuff like that. Everything that represents how it visually looks, but how it interacts. Like the fact that, let's say, your settings menu is hidden behind a cog wheel up in the right hand, whatever. That's a UX thing. Maybe you want to bring up the pause menu by hitting a button on the keyboard instead. So that's like a UX thing. Or maybe you want sliders instead of toggles, or buttons instead of key press. Those are user experience things, and it's a whole field of research. They figure out what is the best user experience for mobile apps, what's the best user experience for video games. So that's probably why when you play a lot of third-party AAA games, they have similar UI and UX experiences, right? Because they share things, and they go, oh, like on a mobile phone, for example, they'll say the standard size button should be this many pixels, and so you'll see a lot of things have similar sizes and locations throughout apps, especially, right?
Yeah.
You get a little more creativity with games. Like, you don't have to follow any specific patterns, But what you can do is start off by copying games that you like. So most games, they'll start with like a start screen, right? So start thinking about adding a start screen with a new game or a settings option or a store, like stuff like that. Think about maybe having pause screen where you can change settings. You'll probably go into that stuff with those tutorials. We'll see.
Yeah.
Nothing new there.
Nothing new.
Self-explanatory. There's one other thing I talked to you about that I want to do maybe in a couple days, and that is I have a guest. So on one of my lunch breaks, probably we'll do like a half hour, 45-minute stream or something, where we bring on one of my mentors who really helped me with clean coding and code design and testing especially. And he's done a Unity project before, and he did it quite differently because he comes from a C# object-oriented programming background. Like, that's the stuff he really loves to do. And so he built the rules mostly in Visual Studio. And then he connected it to Unity, like almost as like a secondary thing. Like, he could have he could use his exact same game logic in a different game engine, that would take C# code basically, because of the way he wrote it. To a certain extent, he may be using some of Unity's packages. I don't know. That's kind of what I want to talk to him about. That's how he did that. But I don't know if we're probably not going to take that extreme of an approach. That's super advanced. I don't think any of the tutorials you're going to do are going to do that. I don't think any of the jobs you're going to get are going to really necessarily do that right away. But it's probably stuff that more advanced developers are doing, building their own tooling and stuff. That's kind of the thing he'll do. But what I really want to ask him about relative to our game is doing it the way we're doing it, where Unity and Visual Studio are so dependent on each other. What's a good design pattern? Like, what's a good way of managing the complexity of the way the objects interact? So what I mean by that is, in our code we have, if we look at it, Inception. If we look at the third-person movement, it takes a character controller, it takes a transformer, it takes an animator. It knows about all these Unity things, right? And the big design question I have for him is like player position manager. This is a manager class. It's a smell, basically. It's the reason we're using it is because we want to manage the position. We want to be able to access it and change it on the third-person movement, but also on the... Where else do we use this? Do you remember? I'll see who's using it. Nope. Shortcut's not doing what I thought it would. Right click, quick action refactorings, remove, peak definition, go to definition, go to implementation. That's not what I want. Find all references. That's what I want. Here we go. So we can find all the places that are using this. So we're using it in the door trigger. We're using it in third-person movement, and we're using it in variant movement, which is the AI movement. And then obviously we have a test for it. This is the test that I wrote that one day. So my question for him is there a better way to layer our code, to orchestrate our code, in another way to put it, instead of using a manager object that shares state across different objects? So that's pretty advanced, I guess, but there's a couple of different ways we can figure this out. One, we can take references from the different tutorials you're doing and books and stuff, and I can Google it and look it up. But I imagine a lot of those are for beginners, and they don't really think about the design and maintaining the code and building large projects too much. They just kind of, if it works, it works. But I don't want you to walk away with just being able to build a game that works now but breaks tomorrow. I want you to think more critically about these things and also apply the same principles to just regular software development in case you want to build websites or mobile apps or whatever, and not just games.
Yeah. Long-lasting code.
Yes.
Ain't
clean
that
code.
the answer to everything?
At the very least, I want to have the discussion with you, and it's not all going to make sense right now, but you can look back on these videos and be like, oh, I think I know what he was trying to say with that. We'll see.
Yeah.
Cool. Any final thoughts?
Random quote time.
Random quote time. Yesterday's was hilarious because you said, what was it? Pronounce your words or something.
Pronounce your words.
And you couldn't pronounce that.
Pronouncing your words. Okay.
Okay, you're gonna sign us off with this, so make it
All
good.
right. It's beautiful. Never put misleading comments.
You heard him here. You heard him.
Never do that.
Never put misleading comments. That's
Horrible.
I don't like never statements, to be honest.
Oh yeah, never statements are the worst.
Never use never statements.
Never use never
statements.
statements.
No, there's a time and place for everything sometimes. But it's also a good rule of thumb to watch anything that you're putting in a comment. It's a good smell that says, you know what smells are? Code smells? Yeah. It's like a sign. You just look at it and you kind of smell it and you know it's bad.
Oh, yeah,
So you use like bad food, you smell it, you know it's bad. Bad code, you smell it. You see a comment there, it's like, ooh, that comment stinks. Why is there a comment here? This function must be complicated. It must have a bad name if you gotta have a comment. Yeah, but that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
All right. So that's my thing to leave you with. Smell your code.
Smell your code.
Smell you later.
Oh,
Boy.
smell you later.